Hello and welcome to a new episode of Airport CEO here on the channel. Yes, this episode has been delayed by about a week. The reason was that we had some issues with the game save. Basically, the game was broken. I will leave a screenshot on the screen right now so you can see this was basically what I saw when I opened up this save. And as you can see, obviously that was just not playable. But luckily over the week there were some updates to the game and that has fixed that issue. So now we are back here with what could become the last regular episode in this season, but we will talk about that more throughout this episode because we still have plenty of things to do to finish up the airport, all that and much more right after the drop. But as always, before we get too far into today's video, if you should end up enjoying this episode, then don't forget to leave a like. That really does help us out. And of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? That would be absolutely awesome. Now, let me just address why this is probably the last regular episode of this season. Well, first of all, of course, this season was never planned to be a super long season, but pretty much half the length of a regular season that we've had so far. And the main reason simply because the airport project that we have here, London City, is considerably smaller than all the projects we've had before. The other reason was simply also because I kind of wanted to have an intermediate project, kind of getting to a point where we would get closer to the full release of the game, and then we could start a new airport up. And the thing is, what I have done with all the airport projects so far is basically having these huge construction projects that have taken up quite a few episodes to get to a point where the airport was actually operational or where we could start to have some aircraft coming in. And I think what I would like to do in the next season is actually playing the game more than just having the construction process, because what we've done here is sandbox, which is super nice because it enables us to try out these different ways of building terminals, trying out different techniques, which is awesome. But what I also would very much like to do is actually have at least one season where we actually are playing the game. So we are utilizing all the awesome features that the game developers have added into the game, which we haven't really touched much on. I mean, for example, we have the R&D sector. We have the ability to change prices on all sorts of features, which goes into the whole process of how the ratings or the rating system in general actually. And all these things we have never really touched upon, and I think it's not really necessary to go into when you have a sandbox game because they don't really impact your game. They can to some degree, obviously, like what airlines offer you contracts, but it is rather limited what these things how they actually impact your game. And that's something I really would like to go into more and experience together with you guys. That's why this season was supposed to be shorter, and then the next season we will actually try to, well, not be in sandbox and develop an airport together, which could mean that the season would be longer than previous seasons. But then of course also a big reason why this is pretty much the last regular episode in this season is simply because we are getting really close to finishing our construction project here. We don't have many things left that we actually want to work on, but there are of course still a few things. So let's just jump right into that so we can start working on these few things we still want to fix and finish constructing. So the first thing I want to work on is here actually how passengers are using the terminal, mainly the area around the gates, because it's something I've noticed over the last couple of episodes, and it's actually been bothering me quite a bit, because the whole idea was that passengers would come from level 1 or ground level basically, then go up to level 1 to security, go through security, and then if they are going to the international zone they would go to the gates on level 1 and then go downstairs, so ground level in the waiting areas until they are boarding the aircraft. But that's not really happening. Passengers seem to go upstairs through security, then through the passport check, and then immediately downstairs. Technically it's not an issue because passengers can arrive to the gate they need to go to, but obviously we have the walk-elators, and we have the walk-elators in one direction on ground level, which is towards the security exit, and on level 1 we have the walk-elators in the opposite direction, so away from the security checks and towards the gates. So that's an issue that is affecting the international part, but we actually have a similar issue with the domestic area, and to solve that I simply removed these two elevators we had here. So now passengers can't just go straight downstairs, they actually have to go here on level 1 towards their gates, which also means there should be more passengers that are kind of forced towards to walk at least through the restaurant and through the shops we have here. So hopefully that will also improve those shops for us. But of course, removing these elevators doesn't really solve the part or the issue we have on the international part. So we need to find a different solution for kind of keeping passengers on level 1. Now, the easiest way to solve this issue would simply be if we had one-directional doors. So doors where passengers can only go through in one direction and they can't return. Unfortunately, the only kind of one-directional doors we have are the security exits, and obviously that doesn't work for us here around our international zone. And unfortunately, there are no one-directional doors in the game, which I think is the only thing we are really missing, because that way we could control a little bit better how or what pathways passengers are taking, and trying really to work out this splitting up inbound and outbound passengers from each other, which we technically should be able to do in this game. But anyway, we don't have that option, so we need to find some other solution on how to work out how we can fix or at least try to improve upon how many passengers are staying on level 1 when they're walking towards their gates. Because that's also, for example, where we have our lounges, so we would like them to walk past those lounges. Hopefully some of them will walk in there as well. So the solution I have come up with, and honestly speaking I don't know if it is a solution, but we will be trying it out, is that we will be adding some shops. I know, shocking. But hear me out. So basically at the very far end of the terminal we have some leftover space. We need that part of the building so we can still access the stands here with the boarding desks, but we have nothing really to put there because, well, it's the end of the terminal. We have some space on ground level floor, but we have a bit more space on first level floor, and we want passengers to be on first level. So what I was thinking here is basically trying to build a little bit of a loungy, shoppy cafe area. Yes, I know, but still, stay with me. Because we have not a single shop within the international zone. We don't have that because basically London City Airport in real life doesn't have that. You just have this long, narrow terminal building where you're walking towards your gates, and that's it. But we have this leftover space, and I was thinking, as soon as the passengers have entered the international zone, as I say, there are no shops, but passengers will still have the need or the liking of, they would still like to go to a shop basically. We don't really have the space in the center of the terminal because we've already added lounges there, and I would like them to stay there because they would be close to the gates, which I think is a nice thing to have. But as I say, we have this leftover area here, and if we added some shops here, and they are the only shops in this part of the terminal, maybe, and just maybe, that could entice passengers to go over here, and the fastest way of going over here would be staying on level 1 instead of going to ground level. And if that works, that would be absolutely awesome, because it would give us more traffic here on level 1 in the terminal building. So that's what we are trying out here. And I know you could say, I mean, come on, is it really that important that there are some passengers that are walking on level 1 and some are walking on ground level? No, it's not important at all. But it's of course the whole idea of how we have constructed the airport, and it's currently just not quite working, which bugs me, which annoys me, and I want to fix it. I want it to just be the way I thought it out before we even started building the airport. So it's not really important, but it is really important. Of course, there are also some chances that this might not work at all, because the shops are really far away from anything else. So passengers might not ever want to go over here. That could be a real possibility, which also would mean that any shop we are signing a contract with here will probably just go bust pretty much immediately because they are not selling anything. But I still think it's worth a try, which is why we're doing this. So we have made this lovely little loungy cafe area. We have additional seating. We have the laptop tables or whatever they're called in the game. And then I was thinking adding just another little shop here, just so we have the variety, some cafe and some regular shop. And I think that could be, I mean, it looks nice. At least that, I think it could look nice. And hopefully, just hopefully, this will help us out. And then while we are just finishing up the construction of that part, let me just address two more things that have nothing really to do with this construction. I have said now plenty of times that this is the last regular episode of the season, which doesn't mean that it is the last episode in this season. It just means it's the last episode where we're actually constructing something and where we're actually trying to further improve the airport. Because I think the next episode would probably be just an airport tour where we are going through all the different areas we've had and really try to take a deep dive into why we've constructed things and see what works, what doesn't work, what could be improved, and try to really learn from what we've done here. I've done that with all the previous episodes or all the previous seasons, and you guys always seem to enjoy that, so I think that's a nice way to finish up a season. So that's what we also will be doing here. The second thing I'd like to address, which is probably more important, is actually, well, since we are going towards the end of this season, obviously a new season would also mean a new airport, and an airport needs a location. So I would very much like to hear your suggestions as to where we could place the next airport. I have one idea, but I would very much like your input as well. Maybe you have a much better idea than what I'm currently considering. I won't tell you what it is because I don't want to influence you guys, but if you have any ideas where you could imagine where we could start up a completely fresh new airport, and develop it from just a tiny little regional airport operating general aviation to a super mega international hub for the worldwide air traffic, then do feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I would genuinely very much welcome your input as to where our next airport project should or could be based. Alright, so we have finished this part of the airport, and there are some people walking over here. Who are you? You are a passenger for KLM. Okay, we have a KLM aircraft over there, and that, oh, look at that. Suddenly we have an influx of passengers over here. Those people would normally always have walked on ground floor level. Now suddenly they're here on first floor level. Etihad, which we have over there. You are British Airways. Okay. Probably over there. Yeah. Okay. Look at that. All these people suddenly walking here on first floor level just because we added some shops. And they're just flocking over here. This is amazing. Look at that. Are they coming from the lounges or they're just coming from downstairs? Maybe they're tired of waiting for the aircraft? This is awesome. So it does seem like this has actually kind of fixed it a little bit. This is nice. Let me just quickly fix here as well. We need more janitors. But yeah, I mean, these passengers just keep coming. So this is awesome. I'm really happy with that result. Imagine that. Just adding 2 small shops apparently has solved many of the frustrations I've had throughout the last few weeks. Very nice. All right. I mean, this has made me very happy. Yeah. I mean, this is the airport worked. You know, before this, the airport worked perfectly. There was nothing wrong. But this makes me very happy. Another thing that makes me really happy is that the copy and paste tool works again. So there was a bug with that, which we struggled with a couple of episodes ago. But it was actually something that was addressed by the developers. It was mentioned in a developer blog that they had fixed an issue with the copy and paste tool. So that should now just work. And that will also help us here. For example, I just want to add at least one more lounge here for, I think, Etihad Airways, because, yeah. Just why not? I would imagine that if Etihad was flying here, they would have a lounge. So we can just help ourselves out here massively by using the copy and paste tool, because it just makes things so much faster when you are repeating some processes. So with that, we've pretty much done everything we want to do here at the west part or west pier of the airport, but we have a similar kind of dead area on the east pier or east side of the airport, which of course is part of the domestic area of the airport terminal. Because we just have this area here that we are not really using for anything. There isn't really anything going on. Now we won't be adding another lounge over here, but at least what we could do is add a shop here. Maybe that will attract a few more passengers coming over here. Maybe not. Maybe this is a doomed shop. We won't know until we've tried it out. But at the very least, we will have filled up the space and at least made it look a little bit more lively compared to before, where there was just nothing. But with that, I think we've pretty much done everything we want to do inside the terminal. But there's one more thing I would like to do airside. And I actually don't really know when they have added this. I imagine it's fairly recently, but I haven't really noticed it before. But you do have the option of adding a hangar in the game, which kind of allows airlines to repair aircraft. I don't know how that mechanic kind of works, if you need to sign an extra contract or something. It's nothing I've really noticed. But I think this is also like one of the things we can go much more into depth with in a new season. So for now, we're just adding it because it looks nice, and an airport should have at least one hangar, in my opinion. So we just need to connect it up here on both a taxiway and a service road. And then you can assign it to a specific airline or just have it available for any airline. But yeah, as I say, I'm not really familiar with the mechanic behind that, how that exactly works. But it's something I look forward to diving much more into in a new season. Then let us just quickly go one more time through the offers that we've had here. I think we will sign Enter Air just because I think they look nice. Still no Lufthansa offers. I've done everything I could. Perhaps we're just not getting good enough ratings to get an offer, or this gameplay is just doomed when it comes to Lufthansa. But never mind, an airport can also very well survive without them. And then let's just sign one more airline, and I think we will pick a Lauda, also just because it's actually a decent livery. Alright, so the last two airlines have been signed. We do have a bit of a queue here, which I think leads to a little bit of delays on departure. But let's quickly take a look at some of the ratings, because obviously the ratings do also have an influence on, for example, the offers that you're getting and so on and so on. Overall, I think our ratings aren't too bad. I mean, this does look quite alright. Here we have one in the reds. And what does it say? So apparently airlines are unhappy with the prices of consumables. So AAV fuel, de-icing. Interesting. See, these are aspects that we just never have dived into, because we've been more focused on the construction part and trying out techniques there, and also because you can kind of keep an airport running in Sandbox without really having to pay attention to these kind of things, and that's really something I would like to dive in much more into, but then with a new airport where we're really starting from scratch and really have to pay attention to these ratings and of course also the money. But let's just quickly take a look here. Let's see, somewhere we must be able to influence these things. I mean, it speaks volumes that I have no idea where I have to look for this because I just had never to deal with that. But it's so much stuff that have added to the game in that area. When I started playing this game for the first time, these things were not there, but since then they have added all that. So here we have the fees. So apparently that's in the yellows, which is then of course not ideal, but of course we also need to check how much we're actually paying for our fuel, so we're not ourselves spending too much money here. The contracts we have with airlines. Renegotiate or negotiate, but why? We already have a contract with them. Interesting. Let's see. So, negotiate. What happens then? Okay. And what then? 6,000 fee which I believe is pretty much what the others are paying as well. We can change something. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely stuff that I'd love to go into more. So this is, then we are earning less, and then they are less entitled to sign it. But this they seem to be happy with, which is exactly. So why do we need to negotiate? We already have these contracts. Do they just over some time we can renegotiate? Is that the idea here behind that? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. This is just, you know, to you who maybe hasn't dived into that just like me, just to show you there is actually quite a lot behind the hood of this game. And as I say, when we started off with this game, all that wasn't there at all. So these are just things I've added, but when you're playing in Sandbox and doing the stuff we have been doing here, you just don't really get into that. We also have the whole R&D sector, which we have been completely neglecting. So here we can also change the fuel contract and make it cheaper for us, which then would mean, of course, we could make more money with the fuel we are selling on to the airlines. And I guess I wonder how bad a proposal we can make. So 73% is still reasonable and they still accept that. Okay, interesting. So yeah, many things we can still learn, but we will do that with a new episode. I think this is about the time where we are ending this episode. We have finished up most of the construction things we wanted to do. I might do a few more things off camera. And the next episode we will have a deep dive into the airport and go through all the parts. And yeah, see what works, what doesn't work, what lived up to our expectations, what didn't, and have a farewell party for our London City Airport. Don't forget in the comment section below to suggest what the next location could be for the next airport we will be working on. I would very much like to see or hear from you guys where you could imagine the next airport could be. That would be absolutely awesome. Of course, if you have enjoyed the video, then don't forget to leave a like. That would be also very much appreciated. And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out. And bye.